Mr. Untuxer. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Pleasure.
Hello, Ryan Flores. What's our issues in Fahrenheit 451 society? And how can it relate to the modern society in which we live in?
Let's just stop right there. Okay, so in the Fahrenheit 451 society, there's the main obvious issue of the government banned books, the government's being restrictive, yada yada yada, right? The government is ending all this, but it's not quite that the government is the main restricting force. It's the people restricting themselves to advance, to be better, because they gave up their knowledge. They gave up books. They got lazy. They watched too much TV, this short entertainment. That's just like scrolling on your phone, this dopamine addiction. That's the issue in their society. They drive really fast. They like to hit animals, people. They live this depressing life because they gave up their will to put effort, because they just found easier ways to get this dopamine. So they end up giving up books, and that's the main issue in their society, is that the people gave up first, which allowed the government to take control and take power over the people. And then the main thing that relates to us is also that dopamine addiction. The people are giving up. They're not putting in the effort to look outside at the beautiful world because they just look at their phones everywhere. And so I think it really does relate heavily with that implication of just brain rot in our modern society. So do you think that the ending of the book, Fahrenheit 451, is realistic in terms of humanity, that there's always going to be a group of stragglers that will push through and say no to the oppression, people that will stand up in the past and in the future? So, thinking of that, do you think that the end of the book is actually realistic?
Yes, I do think that, and here's why. There is a famous quote from Abraham Lincoln which says that you can't fool everyone all of the time. You can only fool some people or no people. So using that logic, we can say that there will always be someone who will stand up to what they see as wrong because they will see through the lies that they face. It might be a small group, but there will be a movement nonetheless. And I believe in humanity because we see Montag as the common man. So I think Ray Bradbury is saying that he also has hope for humanity, because even the common person who maybe they are participating in some of the evil that is being done, they still have the power to wake up, look around, and say, no, I don't want this. So he's kind of saying that no matter who you are, even if you're the leader of this government that is doing these evil things, you can still stand up and say, no, this isn't right.
So, in your opinion and knowledge, what do you think the mechanical hound represents inside the story Fahrenheit 451? And what does it symbolize in today's society?
Well, we know that the mechanical hound in Fahrenheit 451 is like this scary robot, and it hunts down the disobeyers in the society. And Guy Montag is very scared of this. Or it shows how like government uses technology to control and like scare people. And we know that the hound has no feelings because it's a robot. That represents like how people in this world have lost their creativity and ability to think by themselves.
Oh, give me that phone. Come on. Let's be real now, because this is kind of goofy. But what we're talking about here is real life. I mean, people are wasting hours, days, scrolling, pushing away the hard tasks like homework or actual productive tasks because they just want to waste their time scrolling on a phone, because the hit of dopamine is so easy. We lose our sense of self. We lose our sense of creativity using ChatGPT, using all these things to find easier ways because we cannot be creative on our own. But how are we losing to this rush of dopamine? How are we losing ourselves to our own mind?
Let me paint you a little picture. So there was a 1950s experiment about rats and dopamine. So they had a rat and a button in a cage. the button was hooked up to these sort of like electronic diodes that stimulated the rat's like dopamine glands almost, so to speak. And what they did was every time the rat clicked that button, it gave them a hit of dopamine. And what the scientists found is that eventually the rat would just do nothing but just non-stop hitting that button until they died of starvation, because they lost the motivation to do anything else, as opposed to just clicking that button, getting that hit of dopamine until they literally starved to death because they didn't do anything else. After that, they ran a second test where they hooked up the button to where it would shock the rat every time it clicked the button. But still, it still kept clicking the button until it shocked itself to death. So what the scientists thought was that dopamine is the chemical in your brain that gives pleasure. But they found that dopamine is actually, contrary to what they thought, dopamine is actually the molecule that gives motivation. So let me paint you a little picture, right? This is your brain. This is like a container, right? And then this is like sort of like your levels of dopamine throughout the day. Right? Doing this regular, normal, everyday activities will give you this much dopamine, right? But let's say like if something exciting happens, like if you won like a sports game or something, then that dopamine would shoot up to up here, right? Exciting. I don't know if I spelled that right, but I don't care, right? So it shoots up to here, and then what happens is over time, that'll slowly sink back down until where it's normal. But what happens with scrolling is, eventually, you get to a point where when you're always scrolling, it's always up here. And it doesn't get a chance to level down to where it's normal. And what that means is, when you're constantly getting non-stop streams of dopamine, your body will turn this will be the new normal. And then this down here, doing regular everyday activities, this will become boring. This will be boring. So now when you're just doing normal everyday activities, like if you're eating or, I don't know, watching a movie or just being on the toilet, now you're always going to be thinking about, oh, this is boring, where's my phone at? You won't even be thinking about it. You're just automatically going to think, where's my phone at?
The Hound. And hi, Mr. B. We're filming a project for Mr. Harmon. Do you want to be interviewed, sir?
No.